Hey everybody, live from the car, truly mobile again. No, anyways, welcome to the green room of DisrupTV, and we are here with some amazing guests. We're going to do some introductions as to where they're coming in from today, and more importantly, what they're talking about real quickly, and then we will kick off the show. I'm Ray Wang with Constellation Research, with my awesome co-host Vala Afshar, and our amazing producer Elle. So let's start with our guests. All right, so I don't know, Celia, where are you coming in from today? What are you talking about?
Hey, Ray. I'm coming in from Atlanta, and great to be here with you. I'm CMO over at Verint, and we're going to talk about some of the latest research we've done around customer engagement, what we're seeing in the market.
Very, very cool. That's always a great research report that we look forward to. Kathy,
hey,
are
everyone.
you really here? Is that you? Is that an avatar? What's going on here?
It's really me. It's not my AI double or my avatar or any other virtual representation of me. So I'm thrilled to be back.
Well, welcome back. And where are you coming in from, other than from some stable diffusion that we don't know about?
Right outside Washington, D.C. And yeah, just thrilled to be catching up on Metaverse, everything, the craziness that's going on with Gen AI and all the hype. Would love to talk about Gen Alpha, and then also, anything virtual fashion. Love to chat about that. So
yes, you're doing luxury tech, amazing luxury tech. All right, cool. Well, I guess we're set. We're in the green room and we're ready to go. Back to you, Elle.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us on DisrupTV. My name is Vala Afshar. I'm the Chief Digital Evangelist at Salesforce and your co-host for the next hour. We welcome you to follow us on Twitter at DisrupTV Show. Send Ray, myself, our distinguished guest, your questions live using hashtag DisrupTV. It's my pleasure to introduce my co-host, Ray Wang. He's the CEO and founder of Constellation Research in a car. He's the best-selling author of Everybody Wants to Rule the World. He's a regular television business and technology news contributor on Fox Business, Yahoo Finance, Bloomberg, CNBC. In my opinion, he's one of the top futurists to follow on Twitter at RWANG0. Welcome, Ray Wang in a car.
Hey, thanks a lot. I'm here with my awesome co-host, Vala Afshar, the Chief Evangelist for Salesforce, but he's also the author of The Pursuit of Social Business Excellence and maybe writing a new book. We'll find out. Executives around the world are paying attention to every one of his inspirational and insightful tweets. And when not hosting, keynoting, or leading events at Salesforce, you can find him speaking on business TV outlets such as Bloomberg and, of course, writing on ZDNet with his insightful analysis. But it's not about us. It's about our amazing guests. And who do we have to kick it off in person?
We are so lucky to have Cathy Hackl, Chief Metaverse Officer, founder of Journey, and founder of VerseLuxe. Cathy is a leading tech executive with expertise in the metaverse, Web3, and emerging technologies. Cathy's a keynote speaker, author, sought-after advisor who has spent her career exploring the intersection between technology and human experience. Cathy was recently included in an inaugural Vogue Business 100 Innovators list, a group handpicked by Vogue business team of editors for change makers who are challenging what it means to be successful in the world of fashion and beauty. Cathy recently launched her own luxury tech label called VerseLuxe, which is part label, part lab, and was created to explore the future of fashion and luxury. In 2021, Cathy was included in the prestigious Thinkers 50 list of 30 management thinkers most likely to shape the future of how organizations are managed and led. Cathy is the author of various books, including her most recent book, Into the Metaverse. the essential guide to business opportunities of the Web3 era. Please follow Cathy on Twitter at Cathy Hackl, CathyHackl. Welcome back, Cathy, to DisrupTV.
I am thrilled to be back with you guys chatting about everything future tech and how this is just going so fast.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Great to have
It
you.
is awesome. And the last time I remember seeing you, I got to touch the real copy of the book. I think it was just about to come out right at Davos. And it was kind of amazing to see that. And you were talking about really how this physical world and the virtual world are coming together. And where better to start that really in fashion? Talk about why fashion has taken off. Maybe you were at NFT in New York City, perhaps, but maybe not. But you saw like a lot of fashion pickup, the arts world, the luxury world. They seem to be converging. What's driving that?
Yeah, it's a really exciting time in fashion. I think technology and fashion have never been closer as they are right now. And it's a really exciting space. So I'm a tech person, right? I've been in tech for a long time, and I kind of got welcomed with open arms into the fashion industry, which is not very common, right? But right now what you're seeing is that a lot of people in the tech space, whether it's AI, Metaverse, Web3, wherever they are in that space, they're being welcomed into the fashion industry. You know, a lot of us are getting invited to fashion shows and we're on the front row. Whereas, before I would go to a fashion show and someone would ask, what do you do? And I said, I work in tech. And at that moment, they were like, why is a tech person at a fashion show now? But right. And it was like, but now it's like, they really are embracing tech. And you've got brands like Gucci, Gucci doing amazing things. Some of the brands I've worked with, like Ralph Lauren, Nike, Louis Vuitton, also following suit. You've got Tommy Hilfiger looking at that space. I mean, I don't know. I think the answer to your question is, I think fashion understands that culture moves fast and that culture is created in many different places, including virtual spaces, right? And I think that they're embracing that. They understand they need to remain culturally relevant and they need to innovate. Plus, I think some of these brands are risk takers. They like taking a little bit of risk, right? So it's just been exciting. To me, it's kind of poetic that it is fashion and art kind of leading the way in some of these sorts of things.
We saw last year DALL-E generating hundreds of different variants of a dress on a model, and then yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, Elon Musk tweeted about how AI generated fashion should flourish so that the suggested designs can be produced quickly. I think he was in love with the AI generated winter white coat that was placed on the Pope a few weeks ago. He has commented about that a number of times. What are your thoughts about this incredible disruptive potential of generated AI fashion options and how some of these luxury brands could quickly bring these ideas to life and into the market?
Yeah, I think we're already starting to see that. The funny part is he tweets that, right? And I actually was following some of the conversation in the virtual fashion space. And Megan Casper, who's one of the members of the Red DAO, which is an investment, a virtual fashion and future fashion investment DAO, actually tweeted back at him and said, well, one of the companies we invested in actually already had Grimes in virtual AI couture on the cover of the magazine, right? It's called Cyber. So I was like, oh my gosh, perfect moment. Interesting conversion. I mean, it's so interesting that we're having this conversation because Metaverse Fashion Week just happened, right? And it wasn't, they didn't get the numbers that they got as the year before. Definitely it's a bit of a cool down. But next week in New York is AI Fashion Week.
Yep.
Right. So this is happening. These things are progressing. AI is being incorporated both in the design, the thinking, the collaboration and creation of fashion. But I think it's, it's going to be incorporated. Obviously, lots of conversation around models, the future of modeling, the future of the modeling agency, with Levi's announcing they're going to be using AI to add more diverse, people to their campaigns. I'm like, well, why don't you just hire diverse people to be in the campaigns?
It'd be a lot easier.
A lot easier. So I think that there's a lot of interesting moments. I think the fashion industry themselves are trying to think about, what does this mean, right? What does this mean for them as they're creating clothes for humans, right, in the physical world? But eventually, do they create clothes for, does avatar fashion become something they do? I've talked a lot about direct to avatar becoming the next direct to consumer or a path forward for fashion. So It's an exciting time, but a time of a lot of uncertainty in some ways.
Sure. I have a follow-up question. I've been told with all terabytes of data has been collected for a large language model specific to race fashion, but all they find is a black Constellation jacket. So, do you have any
Same
advice?
data over and over again.
Any advice how we can tune the LLMs for race fashion advice?
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to add a little mix there, some color, put you in a nice little virtual couture. Yeah, I'm sure.
We are looking for a new look. I am looking for a new look, so I will be shopping for one. But speaking about new looks and couture, though, I mean, you actually launched you had VerseLuxe, and you launched one of your new debut ventures, Frills. So I want to talk about that and talk about how that worked. You're talking about jewelry, NFC chips, and you're working with Simone. This is pretty wild. Tell us more about what that is and how you guys got together and how it came about.
Yeah, so in my day-to-day, like my traditional job, I work at Journey as Chief Metaverse Officer, as you mentioned, but I'm also a creator. I'm like you guys, like I need to be doing things. I need to be testing the tech and doing things, right? So I said, well, I need my own creative playground. And, fashion is the space that I love. And I said, I'm going to launch my own luxury tech label. I had seen several of my male counterparts doing similar things. They were doing things with t-shirts and sneakers and hoodies. And I love that, but I wanted something different, right? I was like, I'll wear t-shirts and hoodies and sneakers all the time, but I wanted jewelry. Jewelry is a little bit harder to do, right? So I came up with the concept of VerseLuxe. It is a luxury tech label, part lab, right? So the whole idea is that we grab technology. We start with technology to create luxury, to create new luxury. And then we have capsule collections. So the first capsule collection, Frills,
nice,
mentioned. And the idea and the concept here is like, I keep hearing of like the idea of like the no frills airline or the no frills hotel. I'm like, no, I don't care. I want a life with all the frills. Like I want all. So that was the whole idea and the concept behind the first capsule collection. So what we did is I came across these chips called Halo chips. They're NFC chips, but you mint them into physical NFTs, right? So I came across these and I said, how do I start from the technology? How do I use these to design something? And then what we ended up creating was actually a whole jewelry collection, 200 units, but it's basically jewelry. So physical jewelry in silver, gold plated, and 18 karat gold that has the technology at the center. When you buy the physical piece, you actually have to scan it and it'll immediately, through a process, you have to mint it, will go on chain, right?
Nice.
So the whole idea and the premise there is to create both luxury but also potential legacy, right? An item that is a physical item that remains on chain, that will remain with you, your kids could inherit it, etc. So yeah.
All you need is an insurance product against that. I actually have a client that might be able to help you. This is actually pretty wild. I'm going to connect you guys after the show. Wait, sorry. Go ahead, Vala.
So the last time you were on Disrupt, we were talking about navigating the metaverse. And this year, your latest book is Into the Metaverse. There we go. Fantastic. Business opportunities of the Web3 era. So this book introduced us to the potential. In your new book, you're talking about what companies should consider. In fact, you even say, and it's funny, I'm meeting in 2 weeks, I'm going to Spain to meet with Telefonica at Telco. And Telefonica last year appointed a chief metaverse officer. Last year. So at Telco, I wouldn't say a digital native company, they're super innovative, but they have a chief metaverse officer. So tell us about the book and why you wrote it as a follow-up to this great book. And also a follow-up question, should every company have a chief metaverse officer?
I get that question a lot. This is what I'll tell you. And I was very early on talking to Telefonica on their journey. So please say hi to Jose Maria, Chema.
Those are the people I'm meeting. I'm meeting with Jose Maria and Chema.
Yeah, of course.
It's a small world.
So Jaisa is actually their chief metaverse officer. I love that she's a woman. So there's actually like several women like Joanna Popper, Jaisa, Telefonica. The person at L'Oreal is also a woman who's the chief metaverse officer. So very thrilled that is happening. Does everyone need a chief metaverse officer? This is what I'll tell you. I don't think everyone needs a C-suite role that is called chief metaverse officer, but I think every company, well, most, let's say Fortune 1000 and maybe some smaller ones, needs someone in their company to help guide them in this space, right? That helps them, that understands all the different converging technologies. Right? Whether they use chief metaverse officer and whether it lives in, this role lives in the C-suite, that's up to each company to decide, but they do need leaders that understand this, right? Whether they use, head of metaverse and crypto or head of Web3 or head of whatever role whatever title they want to use, right? I think that every company will need this. One of the reasons I think is exactly what's happening right now, where generative AI is taking, the headlines, right? Everyone's really focused on that, and that is transcendental. But to me, AI is an enabling technology for the metaverse. It doesn't mean that because AI is right now what everyone's focusing on, that the metaverse is dead, right? The metaverse.
No, I think generative AI is going to enhance the metaverse.
Yeah,
I mean, we get content velocity like crazy.
Exactly. So it's that mentality, and then you have people in the company saying, "Oh, the metaverse is dead." It's like, no. Let me explain what's happening. It's a cool down moment because it was overhyped, so we have a bit of metaverse hangover. The metaverse is a long-term proposition, right? So I think that's where these people in these organizations can help people understand. It's like, no, it's not either or. It's everything. It's all converging, right? So yeah, I mean, does everyone need one? Not necessarily, right? But everyone needs someone to help them understand this crazy fast conversion of technology. Whew, that is just, it's hard to keep up.
And I agree with Ray. As generative AI reduces the cost of creating content, the notion of enhancing digital twins and adapting and making real-time changes, I mean, the volume, veracity, and the ability to create content is going to be such an exponential leap that digital twins and environments like the metaverse will absolutely benefit from the adjacency and the combination of the technologies. Go ahead, Ray.
Oh no, and I agree with that. What Val is saying, and then one of the controls that we're going to need we're going to have an exponential amount of disinformation, right, and fakes and all these other things. And so having those tools to be able to actually find those or seek them out, payments for royalties and making sure creators aren't getting cheated out of their works, right? We're going to see a lot of that work, evolve over time. I mean, especially given how easy it is, because if you really want the Constellation black jacket fashion and you steal that from me, I'm coming after you. So.
Ray, put it on the chain quickly.
Put it on.
I'll put it on the chain. I'll put it on chain.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's a really interesting moment because it's so much content, so many things being created. Who really owns what, et cetera. I mean, even the copyright laws, right? Even the legalities of what the content that is being created. Mind-blowing consequences, right? So yeah, I mean, I'm excited about the work being done with blockchain around, provenance, making sure that something is what it says it is, those sorts of things. So yeah, I'm interested in definitely seeing how that progresses. Also, digital identity, right? For example, Sandy Carter are all our friends. She's our friend. What they're doing with digital identity, I think is pivotal. Yeah, all these sorts of things are just progressing so incredibly fast. But I think provenance is going to be key in understanding those sorts of things. So,
yeah, provenance is big. And then the other thing I'm going to ask you is really about, hey, when we look towards the future, right? 5 years out from now, I mean, it's almost like, will we be talking about the metaverse or will it just be there and we're completely immersed? Because I remember hearing you say something to someone in the back of the audience when we're catching up at Davos and we had the metaverse panel there. I mean, there was these conversations and, where do you see that future? And it kind of like, lay out the steps as to how we get there. So.
Yeah. So I don't think it's going to be like one day we arrive and the metaverse is here and we'll be like, oh, it's here, right? It's a progression, right?
Like Disneyland. It's amazing.
Yeah,
no, I was kidding.
I don't think it's going to be like that. I think it's obviously over the next couple of years. I think in my mind, if we're talking about the word metaverse in 10 years, I don't think that that's really where we're heading. I think it's just going to be how we experience the future state of the internet. Right? Whether we use the term metaverse or not, I don't know. Do I want to be the godmother of the metaverse forever? No, not really. That's
no, but you are.
You're too young to have godmother anywhere in your title, but yes, you are.
So it's really interesting for me to see that. What I'm really focused on, right? And there's a lot of speculation. We all know this, right? Around what is Apple going to bring to market? What does that mean? So what I'm trying to think through is in the next 5 years, starting to think about what is the post-smartphone future? Like, is it glasses or is it something that is screenless? Like Humane obviously has a proposition.
Connected to your head.
Yeah.
Neuralink.
What does the post-smartphone future look like? And what does that mean in terms of the metaverse and all these technologies? So yeah, like I'm spending a lot of time thinking through that post-smartphone future. Think about Gen Alpha, kind of how they're impacting the market, the numbers that we're going to see in developing countries on Gen Alpha. So I'm really focused on that, not so much thinking of the word metaverse. I'm over trying to define it. I'm over debating it. Like, let's build it. Let's build it. That's my focus.
Oh my God, those debates were ridiculous. You're completely right. We're here with Cathy Hackl, Chief Metaverse Officer and founder at Journey and founder of VerseLuxe, but also the godmother of the metaverse. You can follow her on Twitter at Cathy Hackl, Hackl, and get her new book, Into the Metaverse. So thanks a lot. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah. No, get both.
Get both. Thank you, Cathy. Yeah, thank you. 20 years later, we're still talking about cloud computing. So the word cloud hasn't dropped. And 10 years we've been talking about digital. So it's amazing how long it takes for terminology to fade into the vernacular. Okay, our next guest, again, a privilege for us to have Celia Fleischaker, CMO of Verint. Celia has more than 20 years of enterprise software. She started when she was 15, marketing experience, and currently serves as Chief Marketing Officer of Verint. Celia is responsible for developing and executing brand and marketing strategies to build Verint's success as a leading provider of customer engagement for thousands of organizations around the globe, including 85% of the Fortune 100. Prior to her CMO position at Verint, Celia served as Chief Marketing Officer of Pros and Chief Marketing Officer and Executive Vice President for Epicor Software Corporation. Please follow Celia on Twitter at CFLEISCHAKER. Welcome back, Celia. It's been a minute to DisrupTV.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me back. Appreciate it.
Great to have you.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. And I think we had you pre-COVID, which is really scary when we go back and look at this. I can't believe it's been that long. So, but yeah. So let's talk about, the most important thing. You've got a customer engagement survey. You guys do this every year, this study that comes out. And what are the top line headlines? Like, what are the things that shocked you, especially when we look at between the last time we talked to you and now post-COVID? So
yeah. It's been crazy. It has been a few years, right, since we've been together, and customer engagement's kind of been turned upside down over the last few years, which has been crazy. And we've been surveying each of those years. So that first year of the pandemic, we did a survey, and then last year, and then we just came out with the results from this year's, and it's been really interesting. We talked to about 2,000 to 3,000 customer engagement professionals around the world. And that first year, they were all like just navigating the change and what's happening. And the second year, we were all about how do you handle the workforce and the great resignation and all that's going on. What we saw this year, what crept into the results were, hey, we're concerned that things are shaky, the economy, what's going to happen to our budget, how are we going to, fund and elevate customer experience. And what we saw was there was a stratification of people that were either really confident that they were going to navigate these challenges, and then there were people that were just not so confident. And we kind of dug into that. And surprising or not surprising, those people that were highly confident were the ones that had said, hey, we invested in digital channels over the last couple of years. We are confident in our ability to have our customers self-serve. That was really clear. And the other thing that we saw was a real difference in industries. So with industries, this is actually new data.
Was it like regulated versus non-regulated, or was it just some industries were doing better than others?
It was really what it seemed like. The industries that were more confident, a lot more confident, like in 80% or so, were retail and financial services. And if you think about what happened to them over the last couple of years, they were the most impacted in terms of struggling to how am I going to balance my brick and mortar with my digital business and experience. And they're the ones who really had to throw the playbook out and restart during the pandemic. And so it makes sense that they were the ones who probably invested more heavily in digital and self-serve. Now, the ones at the bottom, you can draw your own conclusions, were healthcare and insurance.
Oh, no. Yeah. And insurance?
I was surprised at that, but it was a pretty big difference. You had the confidence levels of retail and financial services north of 80%, highly confident. Healthcare and insurance were down in that 50s.
Well,
so it was pretty significant.
Celia, Jeff Bezos once said, I often get asked the question, what will change in 10 years from now? And he said, rarely do I get asked the question, what will not change 10 years from now? And he said, in my opinion, the second question is more important. If you know what is going to stand the test of time in terms of what your customers expect from you, high quality, affordable price, whatever it may be, that's what should guide your design principles and how you engage with your stakeholders. You've had 3 years of surveys.
Yeah.
In the beginning of the pandemic, towards the end, and now, hopefully, most people feel like we're hopefully past the crisis, moment of crisis. Have you noticed constants in the 3 surveys in terms of what is a pillar that remains the same in terms of customer engagement, best practice, or what business leaders think we should have?
I think, well, one of the constants is that expectation from a customer keeps going up. So that's certainly
It's not dropping? You mean it's going up? Darn.
Nope, not going up or down. But then I think what hasn't changed, which is interesting, is there's still engagement says it all, right? There's still this desire to engage and engage in a human way, that as much technology as we insert into the equation with customer engagement, there still needs to be an avenue for at least feeling like it's human. If it's not a physical interaction where you're going into a store, you still want to have that personalized. You want to feel like you're being taken care of. So in the technologies that people are implementing, how do you bring that out and pull it together so that it's not these isolated moments that customers are experiencing, but it's a designed or orchestrated engagement where when they move from one channel to the next, that they're it's connected and they feel like you know them. And so I think that's what we've seen is, as much technology changes, people still want to feel that engagement and that's personalized and for them.
Yeah, it makes sense. Can I just go ahead, Ray? Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, we had head of Google's conversation on AI digital assistant on our show last week, and he's been in this space for 2 decades, building the most advanced, AI and ML systems in terms of NLP and conversational AI. And he talked about you can detect tone, you can detect sentiment, you can adjust to informal, formal. It's amazing. And of course, you would know, it's your sweet spot. Verint does this as well. It's amazing how human it can feel, even though it's not. So can you talk about, our last guest mentioned generative AI and the expectations, as you said, will constantly grow because we saw ChatGPT go to across 1 million users in 5 days and 100 million in 60 days, fastest adoption of any tech ever. So which validates your point of that one constant is people are going to adopt and expect amazing real-time, personalized, smart engagements. What are your thoughts about the fact that it's really difficult to know whether you're engaging with an algorithm or a person?
Yeah. Gosh, it is amazing what ChatGPT has done, and I think just the awareness around it that it's created is. You may not love the technology or be certain about that in particular, but at the same time, that so many people have experienced the power of conversational AI and been surprised at how good it is or can be the right AI and tech. And so, I mean, I guess I don't, it's not always transparent that you're talking to a human or not, but if you've got, I think that conversational AI down and as good as it can be, I think that's okay. I think as long as the customer experience is strong, that it's giving them what they need, I think that's great, right? Like put your people to work on other things, augment them with the conversational AI and let them handle the things where it just doesn't work or where someone does require person to person.
Yeah, and we're definitely seeing that shift. And if you look at, I want to go back to your survey, right? This was the experience index, right? That you guys are updating, is that as well?
It was a customer engagement capacity gap survey. Yeah.
there's engagement capacity gap survey, and you also have an experience index that you guys do, which is a different survey that comes out later this year, later in June, I believe, is when that comes out. When you look at that, right, that customer sentiment and CSAT in general, right, is that going up for customers with all this new technology and the customer experiences that we're trying to give them, or is it coming down or staying the same? Back to your earlier point that expectations are going up.
It's such a great question. It's funny when this gets posed to Dan, our CEO, sometimes, because he's the founder, right? He's been in the space for a while, and it's his biggest,
a data geek
frustration, because he's like, it should be higher, right? We've done so much, and how do we get it better? I think we're at that point where it is starting to turn. We've seen some shifts in different, and we do that DXI by industry, which is really cool. And we're seeing improvements. Again, though, it's aligned to what those companies have done in the industry, where they've invested in tech, how they're putting it to use. And I think we're seeing tech, conversational AI, the connection of these different channels, the ability to handle complex engagements that we maybe haven't been able to do, pull all that data together so you know the customer better. That is driving a better experience. And so technology is catching up and is good enough, I think, in a way to really drive that NPS higher, maybe more so than it has been in the past.
That's great. Celia, I mean, so you're a CMO of a company that's very close to approaching $1 billion in annual revenue. So an incredible CMO of an incredible company. What advice do you have for CMOs of enterprise-sized business such as yours,
Sure,
in terms of the balance of art and science when it comes to marketing? Because we're talking about some really cool technology, but we're talking about the human touch. And at the end of the day, experiences lead to connections, and connections lead to relationships. And that's ultimately the goal, reciprocity in terms of value, so you can earn a relationship. And that's how you stay engaged. So how much more science are you and your team applying to marketing compared to maybe a few years ago? And can you talk to us about the trajectory of art and science as you go forward?
Yeah, I think I'm a science gal, right? I started as a coder. So I think there's a lot more room for a lot more science in marketing. And I think that it doesn't necessarily replace the human or art side, but it augments it in a way that's really a great thing for marketers. I think there's a tendency to stand behind the tech, and I think it's very important to get out in front of it and develop those relationships, stay very close to that customer, because they're driving so much of what you need to do as a marketer today. And I think the last thing is to look beyond your traditional MarTech stack, right? Because what we're seeing now, from a Verint perspective especially, but we're seeing our clients take exactly what you were talking, take that information, that data from transcribing that call and putting it into ChatGPT and understanding what's happening with that interaction, that I don't have to wait for NPS, right? Like that's great. But my NPS, I get that response from a small percentage of my customers. Why do I have to do that? I have my customers all engaging with me. I can get their feedback real time. I can analyze all those conversations, both text and voice, and know exactly how they feel about me. Totally. And that's such a better indication of customer sat.
100%. What a great comment, because technology exists today for you as a company to predict advocacy and loyalty, so predictive use of NPS CSAT, and also prescribe the actions you need when you see the CSAT or NPS eroding. So there's enough unstructured and structured data and in-process tone sentiment analysis, where the foundational models should be able to guide the agent and the executive sponsor and whomever is responsible for touching that account from your company's point of view to autocorrect anytime you drift away from your brand promise, anytime you detect someone who's frustrated. That's I hope people are listening, because Celia just dropped like a massive wisdom nugget that needed to be. Yeah, absolutely. Anyway.
I feel like my week is done. Okay.
Your week is done. You don't have to do anything else. I think every CMO should be listening to that.
That was awesome. That was awesome. Go ahead, Ray. Sorry. So as a former CMO, I so got that. That was awesome. Anyway, go ahead.
No, it's as part of that, right? As we're seeing that evolution, the channels are falling apart. Nobody cares what channels you're in, right? The experiences have to be right there. Our ability to deliver next best action is starting to improve as we get better signals, right? So we can actually start popping up. The life of a CMO is not getting easier though. Right. This is the interesting thing, right? So even with this mastery that's happening there, like what advice do you have for other CMOs as well, right? As they're navigating that MarTech stack, are you in massive consolidation mode? Are you trying to do different things, with that technology to automate to get to another level, right? Are you so data driven now that maybe your people don't have the gut sense of what's going on? Or like you have to rehumanize them back into the process, right? We've hearing that from a lot of CMOs. That's why I'm going to see, are you experiencing those kind of issues?
I think we're definitely driving more and more tech into the stack and figuring out how we use it, and data is a huge part of that. We're putting more AI and looking at how we might use AI in the stack, and not just AI for AI's sake and the insights, but how does AI help us drive the automation that we want to do? Yep. So making us more efficient as a team.
Yeah, this is going to be the year that defines productivity and efficiency across not just the tech landscape, but all of business. Verint continues to make acquisitions. You continue to enhance your portfolio. As recent as January of this year, can you give us insights in terms of what we can expect from Verint this year, 2023?
Yeah, I'll talk about the January acquisition because it's a pretty cool one. It's this company called Qdini out of the UK.
Scheduling, yes.
Yes, it does appointment scheduling. And some people are like, well, why that? And a couple reasons. If you think about how both brick and mortar and digital have changed, one of the expectations that people have come forward with or are interested in is, how do I make the most use of my time? I want to set an appointment. I want someone to be there to help me. And that could be in a bank with a mortgage. It could be in a retail outlet. It could be in a contact center. So this concierge level service, bringing that to our consumers. And at the same time, that has the advantage of, from the company side, I know where my employees need to be and the pull on them. My forecasting and scheduling engine gets a lot better knowing that. And we had research that told us that, if you offer this type of solution, that 76% of consumers believe that they're going to have a better experience. They're going to like it more. And so that's what Qdini does. It lets you go in, you can set that appointment in your bank with a retailer. You can set up queuing. You've got, that concierge level access to like a contact center. And it's cool. We're really excited about it.
That's awesome.
Wow. Well, hey, congratulations, right? I mean, anything marketers can use, or anything we can do to actually improve customer experience, give us a boost. Like we often talk about, right? We'll full intelligent automation. We'll get augmentation from, the humans to the machine, as the machines are trying to understand what's really right, or how do humans think, or what are acceptable norms, right? And then we get the point where this actually helps a lot with augmenting the human with the machine to actually improve that capability to actually deliver better customer experience. And then, of course, at some point, we'll have a point where, when do we actually have human touch, right? When do you want to insert human touch friction so that you have that engagement, so people feel like it's personalized, right? And I think we're all trying to figure that out, and that's part of the overall journey. Real quick, one last thing for you, I guess on my end, last questions is really about, right? We just talked about the metaverse. We talked about where that's kind of headed. What does that mean for you and your efforts as a marketer, right? Is that something you're looking into on B2B marketing? Is the metaverse ready? Or is that something that might be 12 to 18 months out for you? Or maybe it just doesn't make sense for the type of customers you're serving? So.
Well, first, I thought that conversation with Cathy was fascinating. Like, that's so cool. I'll say we are not there today and probably won't be there in the near term. But I think the implications, and I've talked about this, Ray, like for customer engagement and how you might use the metaverse, I think it's cool. Again, we're not there yet. It's certainly something we want to look at, because I do think there's a place for it in customer engagement. I think it's kind of an obvious synergy. Yeah.
Imagine if every contact center has their own avatar. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, we talked about the healthcare industry in your latest survey being 30 points gap between the high achieving engagement industries versus to be able to create a digital twin, maybe of a waiting room, or how you navigate in a hospital that's a large campus environment, so that the patient, prior to actually physically being at in my town, we have massive hospital locations. It's literally like walking in a college campus, and to go from one department to another, from eye care to oncology to whatever it may be, to me, a digital twin option that allows you to be comfortable it would be an amazing way to
you
engage.
think about the anxiety that comes with that hospital visit or that and you're being able to experience it. That's a great
Ray wrote an HBR article 5 years ago, Ray, in terms of how you can digitally engage with healthcare and patients. I mean, maybe 6 years ago. I mean, you were so far ahead of
like 8
time. So I think there's certain industries that really should think about how they can use digital technologies to enhance the engagement framework. In some industries, it's sorely missing, and in others like retail, it's incredible. Go ahead, Nick, your final thoughts.
No. I was going to say, look, this has been wonderful. Let's not wait 2 more years before you get on the show again. We're here with Celia Fleischaker, CMO of Verint. And of course, you can follow on Twitter at CFLEISCHAKER. So thanks for being on the show. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Thank you all. Have a good one.
Thank you. Extraordinary CMO. Yeah. Really, really smart CMO and leading almost $1 billion company. Okay, this is what we call our cleanup hitter spot, where the last guest comes and hits a grand slam and just everybody loves the show.
Amazing.
It's our privilege to have Aliza Licht, award-winning marketeer, mentor, best-selling author, podcaster, personal branding expert, and founder of Leave Your Mark, a multimedia brand and consultancy. Aliza advises businesses and mentors individuals on brand building and career development. She was formerly known as the anonymous social media phenomenon, DKNY PR girl, an award-winning personality and pioneer fashion influencer with over 1.5 million fans worldwide. Aliza's first book, Leave Your Mark, Land Your Dream Job, Kill It in Your Career, Rock Social Media, was ranked on Book Authority's 100 best career development books of all time. Every year they publish this list. Her weekly podcast, Leave Your Mark, delivers essential advice and inspiration. Aliza was named one of America's next top mentors by New York Times. Business Insider named Aliza one of the top 20 most innovative career coaches. Ray, you and I needed Aliza's advice years ago.
I know, we need advice. We need a lot of help. You got to help us here.
Her upcoming book, On Brand, Shape Your Narrative, Shape Your Vision, Shift Their Perception, will be published April 18th, next week. Wow, look at that silver cover.
We're
That's
getting
awesome.
the preview. We are.
You can follow Aliza on Twitter at, she must be an early adopter, ALIZALICHT. Welcome, Aliza, to DisrupTV.
Thank you so much for that amazing intro. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we're happy to have you here. And Vala's intros have been used in walk-ups and keynotes all the time, right? It's like the first thing that goes. It's you see the picture, you see the thing, you see the walk down.
We have the best people on the show, the best.
And this is part of that personal branding journey, right, that you're talking about. And one thing that you pointed out was the fact that if you're not writing your narrative, somebody else will, or might do it in a way that you're not going to be happy. Talk a little bit about that, because that's a great starting point, because this whole world of digital media, influencing social media, right, what's going to happen in the metaverse, I mean, it's happening so fast, and some people don't even know their reputation, their brands, or their stories are being created for them.
Such a good point. And your previous guests were so brilliant. So yeah, I mean, the fun fact is that we all have a personal brand. Everyone does. It starts with what makes you, you, right? So the question is, how are you messaging? How are you intending to message? What's your goal? And how are people perceiving you? And when we talk about shaping our narrative, we're really talking about how do you make sure, and as you know, I'm a former publicist, so I think in terms of headlines, how do we make sure that we are communicating the headline we want people to take away so that they can speak about us on our behalf? And to me, a strong personal brand is when your name is dropped in rooms you're not in, right?
Love that.
Yeah, no, definitely. So should I keep the black jacket and the logo that's here,
Well, that's
or
the
should I go for
visual
something new?
identity. That's the visual identity section of On Brand. We
Yep.
have a whole section on that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You're enhancing your personal brand, Ray, by doing this whole thing in a car. That's awesome. So you
I'm
mentioned, you're clearly one of the world's top mentors in terms of brand building. How do you find a mentor that's good to that can help you develop a personal brand and also meet your professional needs?
Well, I literally put it in this book, to be honest. I mean, what I think is really user-friendly about On Brand is that for every single topic of personal branding, and by the way, it's not just online. For people who don't want to be on social media, I get it. That's fine.
Yeah,
To me,
yeah.
LinkedIn is non-negotiable, but everything else is up for grabs. So I do these exercises. It's like a workbook within the book called Mental Gymnastics to kind of hold your hand and give you small, digestible, bite-sized goals to walk you through. But your question directly is answered by saying, everyone always asks it in singularity. And I don't think it's about this magic mentor who's going to sweep you off your feet and all of a sudden give you the career of your dreams. I think it's about understanding the people in your orbit and taking a little bit of wisdom from every single person and almost curating your own personal advisory board.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
No, it makes a lot of sense. I mean,
Everyone you meet knows more about something than you do. So the advice you are giving to our audience in terms of welcome random collisions and stay interested, because again, everyone you meet knows something more about than you do. So that's great advice. Go ahead, Ray. No,
and hey, the other piece is branding is not about talking about yourself, right? It's not about just being out there. You mentioned that it's really important to do it with, I think it's really about context and empathy and do it in a gracious way, right? Talk more about why that's important, given where we are and where we are in terms of how society is reacting to lots of things.
Yeah. Wow. Society. So listen, I mean, I wrote On Brand not for the intention of creating monsters. There's a spotlight on the cover because I want people to understand that they do need to shine a light on themselves to let people know their value and what they add and bring to the table, and to be their own heroes, but not to the extent that they become the villain. And I think that's a really important point because nobody wants to listen to somebody talking about themselves all day. However, waiting for people to notice that you're good at what you do is also not a strategy. So to your point, how do you do it strategically and graciously? I believe, number one, if you're sharing a win, try to also think bigger than yourself. Who else around you helped you get to that point? And number two, for every win that you share, proactively go out and amplify 5 other people in what they've done or support them in some way. And I think that ratio is a way to make sure that you're communicating what you're proud of, but also not talking about yourself all day.
I like that. I like that a lot. What's some of the biggest mistakes you see people do on their journey? Smart people make original mistakes, so they don't try to repeat. But what are some of the mistakes that you see, and perhaps maybe you can even share with us? Maybe you've made along the way,
or about us. Or about us.
Like I think my LinkedIn presence is weak. I'm not sure about the DisrupTV brand. I mean, we get about 50,000 people that watch the episode, so we have some numbers that say we're doing an okay job. But I don't really know about the brand of a show that is 6 years old and we've interviewed over 1,000 guests or getting close to 1,000 guests. But going back to my question, maybe we'll leave the DisrupTV mistakes behind. But what are some of the...
We'll take those in private.
Yeah, we'll take those in private. But I know we could be doing better. I just know it.
Yes,
My gut feel is we could be. But some mistakes that you see people make, common mistakes.
Well, there is unfortunately a lot of mistakes that people make. The first mistake is not thinking about your personal brand, right? Because you're leaving an impression in every single thing you do, from email to social media, when you log onto a Zoom meeting, every single aspect of your communication is being sort of received and judged in some way, right? So that's number one. The second thing is really being tone deaf to your own voice, right? So really, like going back to what we just said before, it's like you have to have a recipe for success that includes humility and empathy, like you said before, right? And a lot of people think that personal branding is all about just me, marketing. And it's not. It's really about understanding who you are, what you're currently known for, what you want to be known for, and making sure other people see you that way. And the easiest way for me to describe it is to say that self-reflection, how you think about yourself, needs to marry to public perception. And how we do that in On Brand, I walk you through, like, if you think of 3 adjectives to describe yourself professionally, you could probably come up with 3 adjectives, right? But if you asked each other, tell me 3 adjectives that describe me professionally without leading the witness, those words may or may not be the same. So you may see yourself one way and they may see yourself another. And you actually do need to do the work to understand, well, what do people actually think? And it's uncomfortable work, right? It's uncomfortable to be like, so what do you think about me? What do you think my superpower is? And so I think the thought process. So what I try to do in On Brand is demystify all of this and make it really easy. And honestly, I start with myself because I had to rebrand myself after leaving my very long-term role at Donna Karan, being a very public social media personality, millions of followers, millions of media impressions. And then I was a person without a job, without a corporate title, with a new book, yay for me, but also in the middle of kind of like an identity crisis of like, well, wait, like, what do I want to be known for now? I'm not this persona anymore. So I had to rebrand. And there is a lot that goes into doing that. And it starts with thinking about yourself differently.
That's awesome.
You know, that's a great point, right? And part of that too is really, you know, sometimes we're known for who we are. Sometimes the brand that we're representing or the brand that we're part of, you know, gets mixed into our personal brand. And one of the hottest conversations here is really about, you know, how do people do that? Especially when we're talking about weighing in on political issues, and everything's political. People are being triggered by everything. People are getting excited about everything. We have companies that will not buy from other companies because of their CEO's political stances, right? We have companies that are protesting other companies for their political stances. And as an individual and as someone that might represent a brand that has those views, how do you actually separate that or distance yourself or maybe engage or double down on that? Like, what do people do?
Well, so in the content strategy, the brand guardrail strategy of On Brand.
Yep, the guardrails. Yep,
guardrails. Like I gotta have guardrails. You know, you go through a Venn diagram exercise where you can sort of decide, like, sort of what your belief system is, your purpose filter, your mission. What are you passionate about? What do you feel is absolutely something you must speak about because you're so passionate and you need to put your voice into that conversation? What are some other things that you could actually let other people handle? And in the crisis communications section of the book, which is the sustain your brand part, we talk about, I speak to an anonymous, very, very high profile public relations crisis comms person who could not actually be named in the book. And we talk about the idea that when you speak out as a company or an individual, the assumption is that you are educated enough to speak on that subject. So not every company needs to speak about something, and not every CEO needs to speak about something. So if you are going to, the first thing to do is to decide, like, is this topic or issue directly related to your business, your stakeholders, your employees? Like, what is the temperature in the room? And then decide if it is actually your place to weigh in. And Sally Sussman, who's brilliant, she's the head of comms and public affairs at Pfizer. She has a new book out, and she actually speaks about, like, her 5 principles of how to decide whether to weigh in or weigh in or not. And I think she has a really great framework. And I agree. Have a similar framework, because not every conversation is yours.
No.
That makes sense.
And shouldn't be. Yeah. Should be careful which ones you do.
So when I was 40 years old, I had 0 digital footprint. I wasn't on
last year. What's going on, man?
Yeah, I wasn't on any social network didn't speak publicly. I was just running an engineering function at a tech company. My first tweet was when I was 41. Podcast, book, writing, being a columnist for Huffington Post and ZDNet, all that came in mid-40s. I'm an introvert, and I continue to struggle with imposter syndrome. My question: what advice do you have for people who philosophically understand the importance of a digital footprint in terms of their brand, but they are introverts, they struggle with imposter syndrome, and they don't necessarily have the courage, like I didn't have for 41 years, to put themselves out there?
Okay, I'm having a really hard time believing you're an introvert.
I went to school and studied.
He plays an extrovert on TV.
No. I went to school, studied electrical engineering, undergrad and grad. And first 10 years of my career, I was in a cube writing software, and I loved it. And then a bunch of accidents led me here, but it's too boring to discuss. If we were at a dinner party, I would be in the corner just watching people, hoping someone will come and start a conversation with me.
Okay.
I love meeting people, but I'm not the one who starts it.
Right. So fundamentally, I believe that if you're in the room, you belong there. And a lot of people get opportunities and they start to say to themselves like, well, I mean, should I have been chosen for this? Or am I the smartest person to do this? Or am I deserving of this thing? And in On Brand, I talk about the idea of like, don't worry how you got in the room. Worry what you're going to do in the room. But to directly answer your question about social media and that feeling of like, I can't put myself out there, there's degrees of putting yourself out there, right? No one ever said on social media to be successful, you have to put your entire life on there. You can decide those guardrails. But the other really great thing is you can be on social media by amplifying other people or pieces of content that speak for you, right? That you aligned with, or even be a thought leader in the comments.
Yep.
That's something Kelly Schweitzer, the head of creator. Kelly Schweitzer is in the book. I have expert contributors in certain sections, and she is the head of creators on LinkedIn. And she really advocates for people thinking about thought leadership in the comments.
Great advice.
And the comments is a great way to continue that conversation, share different perspectives, and she's always been a great person at talking about that. So hey, there's so many great things in this book. I can't wait to get my hands and dig into it like super deep. I think it's really important to really think about like a lot of folks are in the middle of transition and they're trying to figure out how to rebrand themselves for jobs, right? Or to go in a different way or to pivot. Are there certain steps that they should take first, right? Is it really about like almost like, when we do brand assessments to see where you are today and where you go next? Is that kind of the advice that you're suggesting?
Yes, and it's exactly why I think On Brand is different, because I've taken over 2 decades of fashion, luxury, marketing, and communications and later digital strategy. And everything I've done with brands, I've applied to people. So yes, it does start with sort of like a brand audit. And if we think in terms of job hunting and you think in terms of like your resume and the bullet points you have on your resume and the keywords you have on your resume, I would look to find similar job profiles of the title and the industry that you're looking to transition to. Print out a couple companies' postings and circle the commonalities between what they're asking for, key skills, and what you have on your resume, because we all know skills are transferable. It doesn't matter the industry you're in, but you have to prove it, right? And to do that, you have to shape that narrative to pitch yourself and say like, listen, I can do X, Y, and Z. I know I'm coming from a different industry, but here's why I have a fresh perspective and can give a new lens to what you're already doing. So it's all about the spin of connecting the dots between what you know how to do and what they're looking for. But more than that, you need to tell people. And part of the issue when people are job hunting is they do it kind of in silo. So I really think it's about reaching out to your community and saying like, hey, everyone, I want to let you know I'm really looking to pivot into X, Y, and Z. Here's my resume. Here's why I think I'm qualified, even though I haven't worked in that industry before. And if you hear anything, I would greatly appreciate a lead. I mean, but if you don't tell them, how could they help you?
It's great. It's great advice. I can tell you the last 4 vice presidents that I recruited into my company, I didn't even look at their resume. They had followed your formula and had such a strong digital presence. I saw their keynotes. I saw their articles. I saw their panel discussions. I could get a clear visibility into their abilities, their core values. Again, they had such a strong digital presence that I could align even their core values to my companies. And over 1 million people apply to my company annually. So to be able to recruit without a CV, I think ultimately when people read your book and execute your advice, they may get to a point where they don't even need a CV because they have such a strong digital presence. Your thoughts on, will our children have a CV 10 years from now? Is this just something that's, you're not going to put your life on 2 pages and go to a company? It'll just all be digital and it'll be mostly social.
They will all be digital, but you're also talking to someone who bought my children their websites when they were born. So I'm prepared for everything.
That's awesome.
I did the same thing. As well.
Awesome.
So.
I bought my son an Ethereum, but I need to go get him a website.
We can talk about that for a second, because I do think part of what I'm really passionate in teaching people in this book is owning equity in your name.
Yes.
And in my first book, Leave Your Mark, and I repeat it in this because it's so important, I recommend not suffering from what I call last name syndrome. So I was Aliza from DKNY. That was my name when I was there. And I didn't build equity in my name. I aligned myself and leveraged the credibility of where I worked. And that's fine. So many people do. But like, what if you don't work there anymore?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great point. Oh my God, we have to go. We're out of time. I cannot believe it. We're with Aliza Licht, award-winning marketer, mentor, best-selling author, podcaster, personal branding expert, and the founder of Leave Your Mark with her new book on brand. And of course, you have to follow her on Twitter at Aliza Licht. And of course, you want to follow her on LinkedIn, where we're seeing a lot of activity there. And of course, everywhere where you're at and your new podcast. So thanks a lot for being on the show, and thanks for the advice.
This was so fun. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thank you.
Wow.
What just 3 extraordinary guests, a technologist, trailblazer, an amazing CMO, and a branding expert that's just dropped so much wisdom in 20 minutes. For me, it felt like 2 minutes. Ray, we could talk for hours. Your summary of the last hour, please.
Wow, we are so out of time. I'll see if I can do it even quicker. Look, marketing is changing. We are in a digital world, an immersive world. Every piece of that means that we've got to improve the way we view ourselves. The personal branding aspect that Aliza's been talking about is important because our avatars, right, our presence, who we are going to continue to change. That engagement is actually moving in different ways, whether you're in B2B, like Celia's at Verint, right, in terms of how customers engaging with other companies. That's going to change. Companies and brands have personalities, personas, that are going to transcend further into the digital world. And of course, Cathy talking about where the metaverse implications on luxury and branding. I mean, those are real. Companies actually have personas. If you're a company, what was the personality like? What are you supposed to engage like? How would that interaction be like? Who are you? And I think this is going to be huge as we go further, as we look at digital identity, the convergence of digital engagement and experiences, and what might happen in these immersive worlds. So back to you, Vala.
I loved the comment with our last guest. Your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. That is so important. And hopefully when you and I are not in the room, people are like, man, did you catch the last episode of DisrupTV? It was awesome.
We have a good friend where his brand is actually bigger than his company, right? And it's huge. We got a lot of friends that have brands that are bigger than their companies, and they manage it really well.
Yeah,
right.
Really do. Okay, next week you're not going to be with us. So Dion Hinchcliffe is going to be co-host with me. We're going to miss you, but Dion is amazing. So we're in good hands. We're going to have Pat Calhoun, CEO of Espressive, and then Eduardo Camacho, Chief Customer Officer at BMC. And finally, Sheena Lengar, author of Think Bigger, How to Innovate. So get your popcorn ready, fasten your seatbelt. Next week's episode is going to be as amazing as this week's. If it's Friday, it's DisrupTV. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.